Well, folks, as happens so often after these horrific things that happen, uh, these staged events, a story gets buried. This is a story that was reported yesterday by CNN. I didn't see it. I don't think probably many of you did because of all the Dallas attack coverage plastered on the front page of everything. Let's get into it, though. They're coming to get your guns, folks. The Democrats and some Republicans are coming to get your guns. Plea for gun control after Dallas. Black lawmakers delivered an emotional, sometimes searing plea for gun control Friday in response to Dallas killings, calling the suspected gunman a terrorist and openly weeping at times as they rallied against gun violence. Representative John Lewis, a civil rights icon who led a sit-in for gun control measures on the House floor just 2 weeks ago, as well as Representative Robin Kelly, wept during the news conference called by the Congressional Black Caucus on Friday. Representative Cedric Richmond, a Louisiana Democrat, accused Republicans of the devaluation of minorities by not taking up gun control legislation. Let me stop there. How come nobody's taking care or looking into the devaluation of black lives in Chicago? Every weekend, 30 to 50 people are killed. Black people are killing each other in Chicago. Let's start there, guys. I would have to say today is the angriest I've ever been while addressing the public and the media. I share the anger of our young kids. When we look at this Congress, we can do nothing but conclude they are co-conspirators in the devaluation of the lives of men and women of color. Once again, Mr. Richmond, what about Chicago? What are you doing about that? Members of the caucus, including many involved in the House sit-in seeking gun control, said Friday the answer to the Dallas shootings must be new limits on gun sales, increased money for police training, and meetings between local leaders and Justice Department officials. But you want limits on gun sales, and yet every time you bring this crap up, what happens to gun sales? They go through the roof. You're getting the opposite of what you want by doing this. We are continuing our fight to remove guns from the hands of would-be terrorists and criminals and require background checks for those seeking to purchase firearms. We need legislative action now, said CBC Chairman Representative G.K. Butterfield. The morning news conference was delayed after the Capitol was briefly placed on lockdown. The latest push for new gun control measures was fueled in response to the Orlando nightclub shooting, the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history, just under a month ago. That effort appeared to gain new energy Friday morning as the nation woke up to the deadliest attack on law enforcement since September 11th, 2001. House leaders on both sides of the aisle are beginning to explore whether there's any common ground to address the growing violence in the country. That should concern you. Let me read that again, folks. House leaders on both sides of the aisle are beginning to explore whether there's any common ground to address the growing violence in the country. What that tells me is that the GOP is starting to cave in. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy told two reporters he is talking with his counterpart, the number 2 House Democrat, Representative Steinhoyer of Maryland. The two plan to have another conversation on Saturday after they sound out their colleagues on both sides of the aisle about next steps. Separately, House Speaker Paul Ryan spoke with Richmond, who represents part of Baton Rouge, where one of the shootings took place earlier this week. The number 2 House GOP leader was vague about the policy proposals. That's scary. The group could agree on whether it would actually draft legislation, but stressed whatever we end up doing is going to be bipartisan. McCarthy emphasized, I am not predetermining what it is. That's scary. Again, I just think what has gone on in this nation this week, this is a time not only to pause for the prayers, but it's a time that this country should unite and solve the problems out there. Make sure justice is done, and so that's in the mode of what we are doing at this moment. President Barack Obama, speaking during a trip in Poland for NATO summit, did not explicitly call for new limits on gun sales, but referenced gun violence in his remarks. We also know when people are armed with powerful weapons, unfortunately, it makes attacks like these more deadly and more tragic, Obama said Friday. California Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom tweeted a call for voters to remember gun deaths at the ballot box in 4 months. 7/7 update. In the past 72 hours, 96 people have died, 255 people have been injured due to gun violence in the U.S. election days, 123 days, Newsom tweeted. Democrats' dramatic takeover of the U.S. House chambers just 2 weeks ago appeared to yield some success earlier this week as House Representatives Republicans announced they would vote on a conservative gun control measure this week. But that vote was delayed indefinitely after conservatives among the House Republicans expressed its frustrations in private. Thank you for that. This has been a long week for our country. It's been a long month for America. We've seen terrible, terrible, senseless things. Every member of this body, every Republican and every Democrat wants to see less gun violence. Every member of this body wants a world in which people feel safe regardless of the color of their skin. Ryan said Friday, my prediction is that something will go through, folks. The GOP will cave in some manner. And so you know what's going on, folks. You know what's going on. The fact of the matter is that they're coming to get your guns. They're gonna make some legislation out there to make it more difficult to get guns. And so let this be no surprise to you that until that happens, there's going to be more of these rogue attacks, and there's going to be more of an outcry for gun control. And I think it'll get more and more extreme as far as what they want to do, and eventually taking away your guns. You saw what they did to that young man. The young man that had the AR-15 during the demonstration, unloaded, and he had the right to own that gun and carry that gun, but they took it away from him. They grabbed it. That's a gun grab right there. So take care, guys. And we'll be talking to you soon. A lot of things going on in the summer of chaos. God bless.